You're listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.
This episode,
we're addressing a Demeter City data leak in FAB Facts.
An old enemy is teaching us all about stranger danger in the Randomiser.
and we'll be looking into Futurist Theo Priestly's crystal ball.
Oh, will you now? Have you asked him? That's all coming up in Pod 128.
Of the cheeky Gerry Anderson podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Well, what a rude introduction.
Well, I know, it was a bit, wasn't it? Crystal balls.
It was only the one. Anyway, so Jackie, welcome to the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Whoa. Yes, that needs a bit of explaining, doesn't it? Because I'm in fact Richard James,
as
you well know.
Yes, you
Jamie
are.
Anderson. Yes,
correct.
But earlier on, you sent me a little message about when we could record the podcast via WhatsApp. Hi, Jackie, it said. Which I think quite suits me.
I think it does. Well, it's your Richard Ed James. I was going to say Richard J. James, but I'm just making the name up now. I was narrating a message to you, and Siri misheard me.
Yes.
And typed Dickie as Jackie. So I think...
I have a feeling it's going to stick, isn't it?
I think Jackie might stick.
Anyway, you're listening, shall we, to the Gerry Anderson podcast. It's number 128. 128.
Done loads of them, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. And we've got more of the same coming up that you're used to. If you've listened to the previous 127, we've got some FAB Facts, of course, in just a moment. We've got some news from the Gerry Anderson universe, because there's always stuff going on. We've got some emails and tweets and Facebook postings from our wonderful Podsterons. We've got Chris Dale and his amazing randomiser. And we've got an interview, Jamie, with Theo Priestly.
We do have one with Theo Priestly. Theo is another one of the respondents to our new Terrorhawks tweets from a few weeks back.
Oh, yes.
And Theo is a futurist. So he looks at where technology is going, absolutely the future, and sees how that might change the way we live, and policy, and legal stuff, and ethical stuff, and environmental stuff. And he's been an Anderson fan for a long time, and I think it may have had some influence in his interests in the world of science fiction, science prediction, I guess. He's in the realms of. So yes, really interesting chat with Theo. Part 1 this week, Part 2 in 129, and in Pod 130 we'll be speaking to Matthew Sweet.
Ah, yes.
It's a really lovely interview with Matthew. Not to say the one with Theo isn't lovely, but the one with Matthew, I think I said last week, I actually learnt some stuff about Dad that I didn't know previously, and we kind of did some... Well, pop psychology is probably not fair, because Matthew is extremely intelligent, so proper psychology on the way Dad thought and worked and behaved and that sort of thing. Really interesting.
Oh, look forward to that.
Yes, but we'll have to wait, and we've got something rather good with Theo in the meantime. So I hope, listeners, you have already sent us an email in the time you've been listening to this podcast, to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. But if you haven't yet, we'd love to hear from you, wouldn't we?
Oh, I mean, where would we be without our listeners? Literally, where would we be? What would we be doing right now?
I would probably be having a cup of tea on the sofa. I'd
be watching Star Trek Next Generation.
Oh, God, can I join you?
Yeah, sure, At a social, distance.
I'll see you post-lockdown. Well, I've been this morning, in fact, the morning of recording, I've been doing a news interview. And a very strange way of doing it, being socially distanced. They can't give me a mic, so I'm there speaking into a shotgun mic. Everyone's well apart. I'm just... I know it's the norm now,
Visors
but it still surprises me, even... Whatever we are now, 9 months into this pandemic.
Yeah, that's right. Well, soon it'll all just be a horrible memory. I'm sure of it.
Yes, we can.
As will this podcast.
That's what the Podsterons are thinking right now. Anyway, so do drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you, your questions, comments, thoughts, admonishments I normally request as well, although we haven't had too many of those recently.
No.
Although I feel like I've got one heading my way, because we're heading to Fab Facts.
No!
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
Fab Facts, Richard, you know the drill. Yep. But in
Yeah.
case there's anyone here who doesn't know, this
Right.
segment is called Fab Facts. It's called that because each week we delve into, well, the world of Fab Facts to bring you a Fab Fact. I do that by taking a book of Fab Facts, I flick through the book, and at a random point, Richard shouts Fab. Not Fab Facts, just Fab. When he shouts Fab, I stop flicking through the book, and presented before me is one of the many Fab Facts. I will read that Fab Fact to you, and that is why we call this Fab Facts.
Yeah. Are you finished?
Oh, I think so.
Okay.
Have I missed anything out? Are
I don't think so.
you sure?
Go on then.
Okay, fine. Right, here's my book of Fab Facts. Richard, are you ready to shout Fab?
Born ready.
Here we go.
Fab!
It was
Hey?
getting dangerously close to the end of the book.
Yeah,
and
I
as
left
you
it, didn't
know, this book is chronological.
Yes, apparently so. Yes,
Yes.
for the most part.
Well, when I decided this. So we've landed in the mid-1990s, Richard. Some Anderson territory that I feel is quite familiar to you somehow.
Oh, really?
Let's. Well, you may even know this Fab Fact by heart.
Okay.
Let's test your knowledge as we delve into the world of Space Precinct. Most
I know it well.
specifically, the episode Friends.
Oh, yeah, good one.
Yeah? Can you give a very brief synopsis of the episode Friends, Richard, just out of interest? Is it one that you know well enough to do
it's
that?
it's about a couple of friends.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's sort of. Do you know? I can't really. They kind of hack into some sort of mainframe computer.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, so,
Yeah, I'm
so
sorry, yeah.
Tong and Lynn
Oh yeah,
of
that's it.
is it Karel Tarek?
It is. That's right.
Yeah,
Gosh.
Karel
Takes me
Tarek
back.
Brigade
Yep.
managed to hack into a database of officers who work at Precinct 88. So for the first time, because of this episode, we get to
Yep.
find out where all of the regular cast live. Not the actors, the characters.
Oh right, that's a relief.
So listeners, would you like to know where all the characters in Space Precinct live?
A resounding silence.
No? Okay, well,
Yeah.
we're going to do it anyway.
Oh, fantastic.
Let's start with the lesser known Lionel Carson.
Oh yes,
I
played
wonder if
by.
Lionel Carson, but I can't. Is that Joseph Thingy?
Yes, Mydell. That's
Mydell,
right.
yes. It's not Thingy. I mean, that's his stage name.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, Lionel Carson. So I guess must be managed. Dad must have asked for a Lionel to go in there, surely, because that's my middle name and the name of his late brother. But anyway,
Yes.
Lionel Carson lives at 244 Linden Way, New
Right.
Dakota,
Yeah.
Bushland County.
Okay.
And that is in Demeter City. That's not off-world somewhere.
I see.
Hubble Richard, I believe that was played by Jackie
Yes,
James, wasn't
a
it?
renowned actor, Jackie James.
Yeah,
Sir
yeah.
Jackie James, I think he is now.
Sir Jackie James, who lives
Yeah.
at 329 Orion Road, Demeter City.
Ah, with his mum.
Yes, with his mum.
Oh.
Jack Haldane lives at 9021 Cherry Hills, Bushland
Right.
County. Metropia, is that? Metropoia?
Right.
I don't know. It's interesting that there's a lack of consistency already in these addresses.
It's almost like they didn't think it through, isn't it?
Almost. Patrick Brogan, well, we know where he lives
Yes.
because we see it spinning in space, but it's actually apartment number 9751, Satellite 3 on the Nebula suburb.
Now, there's a detail I wish I'd known before I'd written Space Precinct Revisited.
Oh, no.
Damn it.
Next time.
Yeah.
Rexton Podley, don't worry, listeners, we are almost there. Rexton Podley lives at 1055 Dublin Mews, Gibbon Avenue,
I mean,
Des City.
really? I mean, what are the chances of that? An Irish creon
cop
living in Dublin.
Mews. Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it?
Okay. Yeah.
Romek lives at 522 Sierra Vada, Bushland County. Again, a neighbour of Haldane's and Lionel Carson's.
Carson. How strange.
And interestingly, Jane Castle and Aurelia Took live together. I didn't realise that.
I think that is hinted at in one of the episodes. Maybe Friends, yeah.
312 Warehouse Road. There you go.
Well, now all our listeners now can send postcards and Christmas cards even to their favourite Space Precinct characters.
I think you may have missed the last posting date for cars to reach Demeter City in time, but next
yes, of
year.
course.
Now, obviously,
Yeah.
Richard, beyond those main characters, there are files for characters that we don't know.
Oh, yeah.
So, for example, we see a male Tarn officer on that list who lives at
Right.
Bowlin Alley.
Oh,
Oh, dear, oh dear.
Yeah, must have been a very quiet afternoon.
Yeah. A female officer named Tracy Virgil.
Oh, you see what they did?
Do you see that? And one Mags, played by assistant editor Mags Arnold.
Oh, yes.
And
yes.
finally, Charlotte Tan, played by Charlotte Serple, who is another assistant editor on the show. And has obviously no other connection whatsoever to Space Precinct.
No.
Although she does have some connection to you. But her address, interestingly, is Edital House.
Ah, clever.
Editor.
Weren't they clever?
They were.
Yeah.
Lovely little details there. Anyway, we're going to get that picture onto the video version of this Fab Fact.
Yes, that's right, because I think there is a still, isn't there, of this sort of the computer screen with Charlotte in a Space Precinct uniform.
Yes, she is. She's wearing an officer's badge, the silver one.
That's right. Yeah, nice.
She's her registered number at DCPD is G3837D.
Right.
Her status is active, and she's a human.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because I've had 2 children with her. Yeah.
Well, you proved it, even if that didn't. Anyway, there you go. So there's nice little added details that you find across the series, and they obviously just needed some extra personnel there and didn't want to pay any actors. So.
No, but always worth hitting the pause button, isn't it? Whenever you see a screen full of scrolling data, it's always worth hitting the pause button.
Oh, yeah.
Talking of which, now I've been watching something called on YouTube called First Action Bureau. We'll be talking about this in a minute as well. But one of the trailers, Jamie, I'm sure at the end, in the closing sort of titles, if you pause it at certain places, you see very sort of strange phrases and words appear in the logo. Am I right?
Do you?
Yeah, I'm sure that happened. Or maybe it's not true. I don't know.
Nothing is true.
No.
No, I think you could be right, possibly. So, go and check out the First Action Bureau trailer. In fact, it's that for the opening titles, isn't it? It's the opening titles.
Oh, was it? Yes.
I believe
that's
so.
Right,
Go and have a look at that.
Indeed. Yeah.
Anyway, Richard, I think that's probably the end of this one, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, I should think so.
Yeah, okay. Well, then that is the end of this week's
Precinct Fact! Yay! It's always nice to have a Space Precinct Fact on Fab Facts. I think they're too sparse, I think.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, if you just wait when I'm flicking the book until later in the book, then there's a more chance you'll get Space Precinct, I suppose.
That's the key, isn't it? Now, you are listening to the Gerry Anderson podcast, of course, with him, I'm Jamie Anderson, me, Richard N. James, and him, just over there waiting for the randomiser, Chris Dalek. You can tag us all on Twitter using those handles and also hashtag us Gerry Anderson podcast, and we'll see your tweets. You can also email us, as Jamie intimated at the beginning of the pod, at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. We've had a few messages because in the week just gone, Jamie, you may know it was the last episode, the finale, if you will, of First Action Bureau.
Yes, I was mildly aware of that fact.
And of course, people have been commenting on social media. Rob Doyle, for example, said, just heard the final episode of First Action Bureau. Maybe in a few weeks we can discuss the story. The only negative thing I've got to say about this is that we have to wait for more. It's a great story, he says. I liked it so much that I bought the CD, 5 out of 5. Kelly Haycock on Twitter said, so I can honestly say that I did not see that ending coming for First Action Bureau. Perfect. Wow. And now I'm desperate for more, and I need to know how and why. But how? Nothing is true, right? I'm hanging on to that one for hope. Cyber Oswald also tweeted, today we got the last episode for now of First Action Bureau, and what a way to end it. I must say, I wasn't expecting any of that, and I love it. It was all laughs until suddenly it wasn't. Incredible acting and work by everyone involved. Thanks for this story. Michelle said, just listen to the Series 1 finale of First Action Bureau from Jamie Anderson and Nicholas Briggs. Excellent stuff and pleased as punch there's going to be a second series. And finally, for now, Joe tweeted, I wasn't expecting any of what has happened on this last episode of First Action Bureau. I won't say anything, just go listen to it. So happy to hear you'll record Series 2 because I'm really invested on this story. Thanks for making Thursdays better.
Ah,
isn't that great?
What a lovely selection. Well, thank you for stroking our collective egos there, Richard.
Yeah, so that went well, didn't it?
I believe so. Well enough for a Series 2 anyway. So.
Yes, that's fantastic news.
What a nice selection of tweets. I mean, are you going to leave it there so on the tweets front so it's just a little package of praise for First Action Bureau?
Exactly that. I just thought I'd start with a few nice words about First Action Bureau, which, would have been quite remarkable a thing to have happened at the best of times, but the fact that it was all pretty much from scratch, built from the ground up during lockdown and during this awful year we've just had, with an amazing cast and a fantastic soundscape and the music, and an incredible achievement. I think everyone, and of course I include you, Jamie, and Nicholas Briggs, should be very proud of what they did.
Oh, lovely. And well, I should include yourself as well, because you did, after all, provide about 39% of the voices. Anyway, well, that's nice. Well, we're going to talk a bit more about First Action Bureau Series 2 and other stuff in the Gerry Anderson news, which I suppose we can do now. Do you want to do the Gerry Anderson news now?
Oh, let's do it now.
Okay, we're going to do it now. Go on.
Newsy, news. Thanks.
You squeaked with excitement
I was trying to hold it in, but I couldn't.
Yeah. Careful of doing that in the public space.
Yeah, thanks.
Now, Richard James, we've just been talking about First Action Bureau. We're going to talk to you a bit more about it in case you didn't know, which is possible, I suppose. You could be listening to this for the first time. First Action Bureau is a full cast audio drama podcast which we put out for free as 10-minute episodes, 10 minutes approx. Series 1 is now complete. It's all available for free across all podcast providers, and you may wish to now binge listen. That might be your thing.
Oh, yes.
It's done sufficiently well and had lots of great reviews and a huge number of downloads, actually, that we've decided to go ahead with a Series 2. So FAB Series 2 will be recording early next year, and we hope to have it out, I guess, sort of mid-ish 2021. So it's a little while
brilliant.
To wait.
Yeah.
But it does take a while to coordinate these things, and obviously we've got to write the blooming thing now. So lots of exciting ideas.
Yes.
And in fact,
now, can I just ask?
Go on.
No, well, would there be the same cast? Is Genevieve Gaunt, Nero Jones going to be back? And
well, I can't say anything, Richard, can I?
No, I'm going to stop there because I can't say who might or might not be back because Nick and I have started having some story sessions and have bashed out the first few episodes, broadly speaking, and it's quite exciting what happens next. And obviously we couldn't just leave the whole series on a cliffhanger like we have done. Should I not say there's a cliffhanger? No, don't even mention that.
I don't know. Anyway, please go and listen in, and if you've enjoyed it, do write us a review and give us a rating. It really, really helps, and share it around. And if you want to give it a listen to all over again, then please do that. Now, we finished our story on First Action Bureau on the moon.
Yes, that's true.
Which seems terribly appropriate because I've got some Space 1999 moon-related, merch-related news.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. We've got some more 1612 goodies that are now available for pre-order and coming out in early 2021. And the latest two editions are a Commander Koenig action figure and an Alan Carter and Moon Buggy action figure set.
Oh, wow. Great.
They are available in very, very limited numbers. We've only managed to secure, I think, about 40 of each because they've already sort of pre-sold. They look awesome. We have yet to see a picture of Alan Carter's Moon Buggy, but there should be room for him and Koenig in there. And I believe after this first wave, there are more to come. So if you want to grab one of those, I suggest you do it extremely quickly, shop.gerryanderson.co.uk. If action figures are not your thing, but Thunderbird's vehicles are, then you might want to look up the Thunderbird's vehicle prints that are now on the store from Vice Press. I think they're designed by a Mr. Barazza, which is a lovely name. I don't think you say it like that, but I just did. Thunderbird 1, 2, Fab 1, I think, are in the store already. There may be others. They're lovely, detailed sort of profile shots of the vehicles, really beautifully presented. Sort of kind of, I guess, collector's technical art prints would be a good description of them.
Lovely.
But they're really, really, really smart. Captain Black Friday, Richard. We've all been used to it now. I'm not going to make
it's that time of year again.
We're not going to make a big thing about it being Captain Black Friday. But it is a Black Friday sale week. It's just the way of the world now. Whether we like it or not, it's here. People expect it. There's a load of discounted stuff between 50 and 60% off. We've got to make some space in the warehouse for a load of exciting stuff coming next year. Yes, Richard, including Officer Oregon Pounds. We will.
Get in.
A lot of space to be made for those. So just pop along. If you have bought some stuff before from the store and allow us to send you emails, then you may be given early access. Just saying. So keep an eye on your inbox on Tuesday afternoon.
Right. Very specific.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'll say.
At about what time?
I'd say you probably want to keep in your inbox between 4:58 and 5:03 p.m. UK time.
Right.
On the 24th of November. Is that all right?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, so do that. And please do keep sending in your product ideas. Send them to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk with the subject line Fab Idea. We've had quite a few in over the last couple of weeks. They've been really, really useful. Some of them have gone into the mix for a sort of final products meeting that we've actually got on Tuesday the 24th. So if you're thinking about it and you're listening now on the day of release, the 23rd of November 2020, then chuck them in ASAP and we will throw them into the mix. And if we end up producing something which is from your idea, then we may even send you a freebie when it gets made as a thank you for your idea.
Lovely. Great.
So I think that's all I've got, Richard. Obviously...
Hang on. Does that mean I get a free pair of pants?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Charlotte tells me you're in desperate need, so rather embarrassing. Now, just slightly sad, but at the end, it's not really Super Anderson related, but Des O'Connor obviously passed away last week.
Yes.
And it's worth a mention because of his Stingray in the Bath sketch. Have you seen that?
Right. Now, I've seen it posted on social media, actually, over the last few days, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's not quite as iconic as the Super Thunder Sting car sketch, but it is one of the ones that sort of really showed Anderson stuff was getting into popular culture. So, a thin thread linking Des O'Connor to the worlds of Anderson, but a significant one nonetheless. So, thoughts with his friends and family. I think, though, Richard, is that the end of this one?
I think it might be.
Okay, that's the end of this week's Gerry Anderson News.
That was the news. That was the news.
Oh dear, you all right there?
I'm sorry, just a bit of toast I had earlier has just got lodged in the back of my throat.
Come back up.
I'll carry it. No, I think I'm all right. Now, okay. Jamie, are you a Gerry Anderson fan in need of a home? Because if you are, I know just the place on Facebook. You can join our Podsteron's group and join in the fun there. Yeah. Now, I did actually pop on a little earlier today and I said, listen, I'm going to be recording the podcast this afternoon. Does anybody have any comments or questions for me to ask Jamie?
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, Captain Kangaroo, Eric, as we know, said... He said, I was wondering something about show development. Did they, this is with regard to any of the old shows, have character concept sketches and can they be found anywhere? Was that not done? It'd be interesting to see what characters could have looked like. Maybe early ones like Fireball XL5 or Four Feather Falls. I'd be surprised if they existed. I'm not sure what kind of thought went into production back then. So, Jamie, do you know about any old concept character drawings?
As I know,
for
most of the Super Mario Nation shows, it was up to the sculptors, the puppet makers, to come up with the designs. Now, they may have done their own sketches, but as far as I'm aware, they would go pretty much straight to clay. And then that was their concept, basically. Because there's the famous thing Mary Turner tells of getting Lady Penelope right. That was not based on a drawing. That was her doing a sculpt, showing it to Sylvia. No, don't like it. Change this, change that. And it was all done on the clay model. I think character concept art is something that's come much later. There certainly was some for Terrorhawks.
Yes, right.
So by the time they got there, that was part of the mix. But I don't believe so for Super Mario Nation shows, although I'm more than happy to be corrected if you have material that proves otherwise.
Oh, yeah.
But
it'd be great to see them.
I've got two pictures of Troy and Atlanta from Stingray that have been done as sort of plasticine mock-ups. And I think, honestly, that is about the earliest you would ever see in terms of character design.
Great. Martin Smiggy Smith says, ask Jamie if he'll be bidding on any of the Terrorhawks items in the auction at the end of the month. What item would he most want out of the whole lot? I so want the actual Battlehawk, but alas, I'll have to wait till my Bitcoin goes a lot higher.
We may be looking at a couple of things from there, but not Terrorhawks. There's a couple of other archive bits and pieces that I don't have copies of, which I would like for our usage here.
Yeah.
I mean, the Zeroid's cool. I'd love one of the cubes, though.
Right, really.
But I mean, yeah.
A bit pricey, though, aren't they?
They are pricey. And space-wise, I mean, we just...
Yeah, where?
I think people would love it if we would just snap up the whole lot and put it somewhere. But how? Where? What? I've got no space for them. It wouldn't be viable to have them on display anywhere, especially not at the moment. So unfortunately, the majority of this stuff is going to go to private collections. But let's hope those private owners are generous with their purchases and let people see them at events in the future.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I don't mind the idea of it going to the people who love the shows. I think that's quite nice. It's sort of an opportunity to own your piece of the Gerry Anderson legacy, isn't it? And as you say, an added bonus if they were to tour the various conventions once they start up again next year, hopefully, and show everybody else. That'd be lovely. Another question for you. Abby says, how are the lambs?
Well, the lambs are no longer lambs. The lambs are little sheep now. But yes, they're all very well. I don't think we've got any particularly exciting stories to share. I think I mentioned that Froggy, the old ram, had a punch-up and broke off his horn.
That's right.
He's recovered extremely well. He just looks lopsided.
And Tom Hodden said, Torchy versus Joe 90. Who would win in a fight? What do you think?
I'm sort of hoping for one of those ones where, they both punch each other at the same time and knock each other out.
Yes, that's right.
Can it be a draw? I mean, I think Joe would be scared of Torchy, so I think Torchy would win.
Yeah. Well, listen, Jamie. Tom's post made me think.
Oh, no.
Now, this is especially for Zach Reynolds, who posted on our Facebook group to say how much he was missing Quickfire 5.
Oh, no.
Here is an off-the-cuff Quickfire 5. Right, Jamie, I'm going to give you 5 options. Who would win in a fight out of Bergman or Koenig?
Oh, Koenig.
Orin or Romek?
Oh, Orin, obviously.
Officer Castle or Helena Russell?
Oh, Castle.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Captain Black or the Hood?
Oh, Captain Black.
Come on.
Just.
And finally, Zuni or Oink?
Oh, probably Zuni. Zuni or Oink.
There you
what
go.
a choice.
There, well done. There, little bonus Quickfire 5 for you, just for old time's sake, and especially for Zach Reynolds.
I'd forgotten that hideous surge of adrenaline when that klaxon goes off.
No. Anyway, yeah, so do get in touch on our Facebook group. There's a few questions to answer, and we'll let you in, and you can join in the fun, playing gift games and sharing your art and so on. And might read out a few messages of yours next time.
I look forward to more messages in
Always.
due course. Richard, would you like a feature interview?
Why, have you got one?
It just so happens I've got a hat here containing a 2-part feature interview.
Oh, right. Let's have a look. Which is quite a nice hat, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's a fedora, isn't it?
It is, yes. Felt lined by the look of it.
Yeah, it's very cosy, actually.
God.
So let me just pull this out of the hat. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I am.
No, I don't either. Yep.
Our interview this week is with Theo Priestly, who is a futurist and author and broadcaster and all sorts of things person. And it is his job in life to look to the future based on current trends and see how the world might change and help to inform people in terms of policy and technology and law and all sorts of other areas.
Wow.
So he's really got his eye on the future and he is sort of has his finger on the pulse of where things are already headed that we might not be aware. So really interesting person to talk to when it comes to the worlds of Gerry Anderson, which despite many of the shows being, 60 years old in some cases, still have an eye on the future themselves. So I had a chat to Theo about how he got interested in Anderson stuff, what Anderson stuff has got right in terms of future predictions, what it's got wrong, and the best and the worst that there might be to come in the future that could be linked to the worlds of Anderson. So no, it's not all doom and gloom.
All right, good.
Really interesting chat. Theo's a really interesting guy, and here he is.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Jamie. I'm Theo Priestly. I am regarded as a futurist. What that means is I spend my time trend watching, mainly in technology, and ascertaining the impact on business, on people, and society in general, and policy. So obviously, technology affects a lot of policies around the world, countries. What do we do with data? For example, data privacy. We want to build better systems, better healthcare, but what does that mean exactly? And I try to dovetail into those kind of discussions with companies and with organizations and authorities. the role of technology, what's coming up that might be exciting for people to consider, whether it's virtual reality or augmented reality or artificial intelligence. And I spend my time speaking at conferences about this as well. So I've done a number of conferences around the world. I've done a TED talk on artificial intelligence as well.
Nice.
And that was probably my most nerve-wracking conference.
I bet.
It was. So there were 2,000 people, and the crowd, the size of the crowd, kind of sort of doesn't really faze me, because at the end, everyone's just like this anamorphous blob kind of sort of thing in front of me. So I don't really sort of see individuals. But it was the fact that you had 2,000 different people with all different expectations, because that's what a TED conference allows everyone in. When you give it to normal conferences, whether I'm doing it as small, intimate conference with a business when I'm hired in to do that, or a technology conference in general, you kind of know the audience. They're all there to hear a specific message. But when you have 2,000 people from all different walks of life just coming in from the street or stuff like that, then you have no idea what they want to take away from this. And so your message is completely different as well. And I absolutely loved that talk, but at the same time, it was the most nerve-wracking ever. Yeah, but
okay.
Yeah.
Well, your audience for this podcast interview is a lot more niche and specific. They are all Gerry Anderson fans who are interested in science fiction, so that's a good starting point. Would it be fair to say then that as a futurist, you are sort of into practical science fiction in a way? It's informed science fiction in a way, because you're speculating, you're looking at trends, but there's still a degree of creating a future idea. Or am I putting too much creativity on it, and actually it's much more of a science where you're concerned?
No, I think I've been steeped in science fiction ever since I was a child, and I think that's probably steered me somewhat to the direction that my career has gone in. I've been very much excited by technology, and I've spoken a lot and written about a lot about technology and where it would go in the future, and which ones are exciting and which ones that we should be fairly concerned about. And I use science fiction and reading science fiction as almost pointers to see how other people consider where our current situation and what's our scientific limitations and our technological limitations, where they can go. I mean, if you look at Arthur C. Clarke, for example, when he wrote 2001, a lot of the things that we read about or saw in the movie have started to come to fruition. Same with Star Trek, the tricorder, the talking to computers, iPads from Next Generation, for example, and things like that. A lot of the smaller, more practical things didn't exist at the time, but now they do. And it's incredible to sort of look at and think, well, how many of the technological things in our home today, came from someone looking at a science fiction program or reading a science fiction book and said, that would be really cool if we actually built that. Still waiting on the transporter, and it's apparently, if we want to put a timestamp on this podcast, it's Back to the Future Day. So as well. So I'm still waiting on hoverboards.
Yeah, we're making progress. I'm sure I had a chat with a guy who, I can't remember the name of the lab out in the US. It's a professor who's got a fantastic name. It'll come to me at random, and I'll just probably say the name in the middle. But he's been working on kind of transporter stuff. I mean, molecular level transporter stuff over small distances. So it's super early, but it is cool to think how much science fiction informs people's lives and the stuff around us. We'll hopefully pick up a few threads of that through the Anderson stuff. Just to put you on the spot up front, we'll do stuff about the future at the end of this podcast. But right now, what do you think the best and the scariest things that we have today that were predicted or were driven by science fiction of the past?
Oh, that's a good question.
I mean, you could say Zoom, I suppose, video calls like the one we're on right now doing this, but that doesn't seem very exciting.
It doesn't seem very exciting, but when I've seen 19th century French art depictions of video calls.
Wow.
From sort of futurist magazines back in the sort of 1870s or something like that. And you have two people in very sort of well-to-do attire, and they're holding some kind of video device, which is basically just like a camera staring into it, and obviously having a chat. And on the other panel, there's someone else with a screen doing exactly the same thing. And so, in 1780, someone was already thinking about Skype.
Wow. Okay.
And you have people throughout history, like Carl Sagan, for example, making those kind of sort of predictions. Arthur C. Clarke, like I've said before. So I think all throughout history, we're getting to this stage now, I believe, where technology is starting and innovation is starting to become very incremental, because we're so used to it all around us that nothing really wows us anymore. And I certainly am getting a bit impatient in a way, because there's no giant leaps. If you look back in, for example, what was it, the early 90s when Lawnmower Man came out. I mean, VR, for example, has been kicking around for decades, even well before that. Sword of Damocles, I think it was called, was this giant contraption that was suspended from a ceiling, and at the end was just like a small set of goggles. And then apparently that was the first VR headset that was made. And then you had Lawnmower Man, and we were all excited about what VR was going to give for the future back then. But of course, I think our vision has always been further ahead than the technology, and it still is today. When you look at Ready Player One and the film came out, I think Steven Spielberg said, this film is going to help launch VR in new ways. And it's like, no, because this isn't what VR is. And we're so technically limited at the moment. We can't imagine this seamless transition and being able to do anything yet. So there are still limitations about our imagination. I think in the scary sense, if you look at what Black Mirror came out with, there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
In terms of, the way that data is being used and the way robotics, for example, and artificial intelligence is being used to either predict our behavior or subvert it in certain ways, and manipulate it to guide us into taking certain actions. And I think those are the scary things that we maybe didn't foresee. I think a lot of people were wrapped up with, the robots are coming and I'm going to be fighting Terminators and things, but actually it's a lot more subtle.
Yeah.
Whenever we think about AI, we always think about it as a corporeal form with, arms and legs and a machine gun. But the reality is that, it's an algorithm, it's something hidden, it's something unseen. And, we don't know what goes in, we don't know what it does in the middle, and we don't know what gets spit out. So those are the scary aspects, I think. And touching on Black Mirror, actually, again, is I don't think Charlton Brooker can produce another series, because real life seems to have overtaken most of what the show has tried to portray already, to be honest.
Yeah, it's really quite spooky, actually, when you just look back at things that were done a few years ago, and now they're sort of almost happening literally. But let's not go down the sort of dark path too soon. We'll keep the misery stuff for the end. Let's go to the utopian worlds of Anderson instead for a bit, or, semi-utopian. Take me back, if you can, to an early or your earliest Anderson memory, and where has this connection come from? Because we're in touch because of the new Terrorhawks material that we put out on Twitter, which shows that you clearly have some memory of and maybe fondness for Terrorhawks. But where do we start on your timeline with Anderson stuff?
It actually starts a lot later than I suppose you would think. I mean, I was born in 1972, and my earliest memories of science fiction were running home from school, scoffing my dinner, and then watching Star Trek on a black and white portable TV in the kitchen. And I have to say, Space 1999 was one of my earliest memories of Anderson. Of course, I didn't realize it was Gerry Anderson until much later when I came across Thunderbirds and Joe 90. But Space 1999, and I think that was because of the live action side of things, because of the sort of not parallels, but we had Star Trek and we had our British version there. And I remember is her name Maya?
Yeah.
Yeah, the woman who could shapeshift into stuff. That was another that's a memory that sort of really sort of stands out for me. And I actually watched a few episodes, not recently, but maybe last year, because I wanted to sort of go back, because I always thought that the theme tune itself was just one of the best theme tunes with that guitar riff going on.
Funky.
It's just great. It's just funky, yeah. But yeah, Space 1999 for me, that was the kind of staple diet.
Yeah. But as a direct competitor to Star Trek at the time, was it?
Yeah, because I think, now, I don't get me on the years. So Star Trek was obviously out before I was born anyway, but we always had the sort of TV reruns, and I think at that point in time, Space 1999 was later.
Yeah, I mean, it was out 75, 76, but it would have been repeated late 70s and probably early 80s as well.
Yeah, so I would have seen it when it was probably repeated in the late 70s and caught up with it back then. And of course, that sat side by side with Star Trek at that point in time, to be honest, at primary school age for me. So, yeah, it was just another sort of funnel for me to sort of sit down and just create this world in my head kind of thing of what space exploration, alien life and all that kind of sort of thing would be. So I think I was really influenced at a very early age through science fiction, just about being creative, thinking forward into the future.
I'm interested, though, with those two sat alongside one another. I just wonder if, because obviously Star Trek is set much further away, further in inverted commas, in time and space, but something about, because of the kind of the colorful nature of it, and I don't want to say it's sort of got a campness to it, but it's certainly got a 60s polished Americanness to it, which maybe somehow makes it feel more distant. But equally, Space 1999 to me, especially if you're watching it as a kid, it's quite dry and slow and philosophical. So did either feel more accessible and interesting to you to a kid, or is it just like everything space is amazing and cool?
Yeah, I think certainly the color and the campness of Star Trek, it kind of sort of draws you in more. And then you have, for me, I think because I've watched it to death, I've got very specific memories of favorite episodes and things like that. I think I would really have to go back and watch Space 1999 all the way through again and say, yeah, that's a standout episode, and that's a standout episode, kind of sort of thing. And yeah, we've only got so many hours in the day to watch content. Yes. We all have jobs to do. That's the trouble. But again, you have the creative wonder and forward thinking of Star Trek, and then you have the more sort of cerebral stuff with Space 1999. And I think even for a child, of my sort of disposition, I think the two still fed into, the makeup of who you are today, or who I am today. Because, if all you're fed is the fantastical side, then you fail to recognize, some of the consequences and actions of doing, or the realities, physical realities of what space is like and how dangerous it can be. In Star Trek, everyone's walking about artificial gravity and stuff. I think that really helped with Space 1999 being on the moon, in that the sense that some of the physical side of things, you could actually get your head around. Yes, there's semi-gravity on the moon and stuff like that. Not in Star Trek, where it's like some sort of fake anti-gravity sort of stuff, and I don't have to wear anything. And I think that's where the success of, modern science fiction now comes into play, like The Expanse, where they do a lot of the, they do actually start to think about the impacts of, living in space. What does it mean? What does it affect? How does it affect my body? They're all wearing sort of not gravity boots, but they're all wearing magnetic boots to be able to just walk around in the ship. So with, science fiction has matured a lot. And I think, shows like Space 1999, in being more mature and being more philosophical, is kind of sort of paved some of that way right from the start.
Yeah. No, it's weird how the moon floating through space is somehow grounding and more real. It seems a bit odd, doesn't it? But I'm totally with you. So from they've grown up and the cerebral to, you mentioned Joe 90, which I feel in many ways is so the opposite of Space 1999.
Oh, yeah.
Child focus, the sort of the thing you have to accept of the big rat actually working and transferring brain patterns, and the sort of throwaway nature of Joe's murderous missions. How did your experience of Joe 90 compare? I mean, I'm guessing you, as a kid, you maybe didn't know they were from the same stable.
No, I mean, until I started to see Thunderbird and Captain Scarlet, and then Joe 90, and then you see the similarities of, it's the marionette puppets, and you see, Gerry Anderson in Technicolor and all those kind of sort of things. You start to recognise a lot of the title sequences are fairly similar, and then of course, obviously the puppets. And for me, Joe 90 was really interesting because of the whole. When you're a child, you don't really sort of understand the whole murderous super spy kind of aspect to it. It's like Mission Impossible with children.
Yeah, social services calling.
But I think, if I look back and then I look forward now to where I am today, the whole idea of being able to, it's very Matrix in a sense, being able to just download some information straight to your brain and literally learn something on the fly. And that's what they did in the Matrix. You plugged in, I could learn how to fly a helicopter straight away, kind of sort of thing. And Joe 90 was much the same with his glasses. But yeah, you look back now and it's like, Dad, what will you do to me, Dad?
Yeah, there's definitely scope for a follow-up, 40 years later, when this emotionally scarred, screwed up ex-secret agent is sort of roaming the planet doing all sorts of nasty stuff and, can't maintain relationships, can't trust anyone. It's pretty dark when you start delving into it. So just briefly touching on Thunderbirds and Scarlet as well, obviously they're the kind of the two most popular Supermarionation shows. Again, they kind of, in a different way, cross into the real and the physical with the model work and the special effects and that sort of stuff. Thunderbirds paints a very retro futurist view of 2065 or 2026, depending on which Thunderbirds camp you're in, but we'll not get into that. Just tell me about your kind of childhood experiences of Thunderbirds at the time, what you thought of it, and how it engaged you, and then maybe how you kind of think of it now, because it's got a very different vision of the future than contemporary science fiction does.
Well, I wanted the toys. Let's put it that way. Everyone wanted the toys.
Everyone wants the toys. It's all about the dinky toys or whatever they were at the time.
This sort of, the secret organization that literally comes together and saves people, whether they're underwater or whether they're on land or whether they're in space and stuff. It's very. You had Joe 90, who was a singular person, and then you had this sort of organization who had this seemingly unlimited wealth around them that could hide all their stuff, and your imagination kind of goes wild, because then all of a sudden you've got this massive scope as a child to imagine on Tracy Island and then the space station and then these giant vehicles doing things that are dangerous missions. I think the scope and vision of Thunderbird suddenly became so much bigger than what I had seen before, and that was quite an appeal. And then of course the missions would be dangerous as well, so there'd be like real threat levels involved and stuff like that, whether it's a building collapsing or whether it's people being trapped or stuff like that and rescued underwater. And underwater obviously you had Stingray later on as well. What was the girl's name? Maria. Is it Maria?
Marina.
Yeah. I think I can hear the song in my head.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll look forward to your rendition at the end of this interview.
No, you don't want that. But yeah, so you had that, and then dropping into Scarlet, much in the same way now, rather than this secret organization that are doing lots of good. You now got two opposing forces where you've got good and evil, very sort of black and white, good and evil going on, and again, that's just like mind fodder in a sense, because now you're exposed to something else, which is, more clandestine, it's more obvious that there are evil and shadows at work kind of sort of thing. And you've got Scarlet, who's good and who can't be killed and things like that. And, and again, it's like very, for a child growing up, obviously a bit later on in life at that point in time, but it's still fascinating, because I think more than the physical puppetry and the skill involved in that, your stories become far more intricate to the level that was probably written for Space 1999 from live action kind of sort of thing. And I think that's always been the appeal for Gerry Anderson shows, is that it didn't treat the audience like, oh, this is a puppet show, so I'm going to write some kind of childlike script along with it, kind of sort of, here's Captain Scarlet jumping in muddy puddles, kids, and stuff like that. It was an adult show with adult themes. And I think the puppetry, much in the same way as cartoons, allowed you to do things that live action couldn't. So you could build set pieces with lots of explosions and stuff like that. You could have people falling over cliffs and things like that that would generally cost you an absolute arm and a leg and probably bankrupt a studio if you were wanting to do that for real. So I think it was a really clever way of actually bridging two genres or generations in a sense, and save money at the same time.
Well, it was always Dad's thing to not talk down to his audience, to respect the audience, because his view was that kids are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. And there's something aspirational in there. It's really interesting hearing you pick certain bits of shows and then seeing how that template of interests fits perfectly with what you're doing now. You're talking about, sort of extrapolating into the future, obviously, but consequences, connections, and all that kind of stuff. And it's a perfect fit. So clearly you're doing the right thing with your life, Theo. If this was a careers counselling interview, which it is not. Theo Priestly will be back for part 2 next week.
Good. What an interesting chap.
Really interesting. And yet another fascinating angle. In past weeks, we've had people that worked on the original shows. Byron last week and the week before, who's in gaming. Yeah. Matthew Sweet in a couple of episodes' time, who's a writer, author, researcher, presenter, and Theo on the Futurist side. Just such a lovely mix. So thank you, Theo.
Yeah,
do look out for him on Twitter. He's quite a prolific Twitterer.
Oh, good.
Just search Theo Priestly, and he'll be back for more next week.
Marvellous. Look forward to it. In the meantime, lots of people are getting in touch with us at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. Before we get to some rather special emails that we've had, though, in response to a specific request that you made a week or so back, Jamie, just your usual weekly reminder to subscribe to us on whichever channel you're listening to us on. That way you get notifications every time a new episode appears. Also, leave us a nice rating if you'd be so good. We love to read your reviews and see your ratings. And also, share us with your friends so they can get to hear us too. Now, Jamie, a little while ago, I confessed to you that I didn't want this year's Gerry Anderson Christmas jumper.
Yes, causing great offence to me and countless others.
No, I did go on to explain that, you can only have so much stuff and so many Christmas jumpers, and I was very happy with the one I had last year, so I very politely declined, which meant that there was a spare jumper.
Absolutely.
So we've had a few people who do indeed listen to the very end of the podcast, because that's where we mentioned the competition. And to reward them, we said, well, let us know if you think you deserve my spare Christmas jumper. So, for example, we have Chris Yost here, who got in touch to say, in fact, I always listen to the end. You two are fun to listen to, and I don't want it to end. Thank you for making the very generous offer to give away Richard's Christmas sweater. I would like to ask for it on behalf of my wife. I have one coming as a birthday present from her, and my income doesn't allow me to buy her one as well. I would love to reciprocate and give her one. I got her hooked on Thunderbirds. Her favourite character is Parker, and to give her one as well would be lovely. And even if I'm not picked, once again, thank you for your generosity in doing this for us in fandom. All the best for yours and Richard's continued success. And that's from Chris. P.S. He says, I love First Action Bureau. The ending of episode 2 really had me sit up and feel the prickles down my spine. Ooh. Well, I'm glad to oblige, Chris. Likewise, we had an email here from Tim Boys who said, hello, Jamie and Richard. Reasons why I should have Richard's jumper. I work, says Tim, for the NHS as a therapist within the community. When COVID hit, we changed from 5 days a week, 8:30 till 4:30, to 7 days a week, 8 till 8. We've seen people with COVID, even if they have it, and we did not know they had it. We've had an infection within our team. We've lost a member of staff during this time. My partner is likely to lose her job. My daughter has no income. These are the reasons why I should not have Richard's jumper. I have a job and enough savings to manage. I've not lost any immediate family. We're now just working 5 days a week. There are people who have lost loved ones. There are people who need food and food banks. How about having a Christmas raffle for Richard's Christmas jumper with the money going to the Stroke Association and or the Alzheimer's Society? Very nice idea, Tim. That would be great. A little complex to organise, I think, at such short notice. Bill Buddendorf got in touch to say, hello. I have no Christmas jumpers yet, and I would love the Fab Thunderbirds jumper to change that. I love the podcast and always listen to the end. Why wouldn't you? The Gerry Anderson shows inspired me as a kid and still inspire me today to be the best creative person I can be. And I would wear it all the time while quarantining, and it would make me super happy. Thanks for the podcast and keeping the Anderson universe alive and thriving. Happy Christmas. Cheers, Bill Buddendorf. And we have another one here. They kept on coming. And this one is from Martin Laybourne, who said, "Hello, Jamie and Richard. I've just got to the end of pod 127 and thought I would submit my request for Richard's Christmas jumper, as he didn't want it. How rude. When I was young, i.e. in the 1960s, my mother would often quote various sayings and instructions to prepare me for my life ahead. Here are a few which I think would be appropriate for this situation. Number 1, never let look a gift horse in the mouth. 2, if it's going free, grab it. 3, always say please and thank you. 4, you're not watching Thunderbirds until you've tidied your bedroom. And last but not least, if you're cold, put a woolly on. I rest my case. Thank you in advance, Martin Label."
That's a pretty compelling case there, Martin.
Absolutely. So there's just 4 emails out of the many, many, many that we received. And of course, we can't give you all a Christmas jumper. I think it was just mine, wasn't it? So, Jamie, is it just the one we're giving away? How do we choose?
Well, I think we can probably stretch to more than one. So I would like to award a Christmas jumper to each of those people who've written in and Richard has just read out now. So
nice. So that's Chris Yost, that's Tim Boys, Bill Buddendorf, Martin Label.
Right, congratulations all 4 of you. If you provided a size and address, they will be on the way to you shortly. And if you haven't provided a size and address, provide it ASAP so we can get it to you in time for Christmas. Happy Christmas, happy holidays, and thank you for entering. We'll have more competitions like that in due course.
Fantastic. Merry Christmas, everybody.
And thanks to all those who wrote in with very compelling cases.
Oh yes,
but we did only say 1, and we've already stretched to 4. So,
and I have to, absolutely. And I have to say, I know a lot of you, and you mentioned it in your emails, are having a really tough time at the moment. And I just want to say that you are always welcome here on the podcast. And I hope that we just make a very small difference to what is, I know, a very painful time for a lot of you. So we really thank you for your support and for listening in.
Hear, hear. How lovely.
Yeah.
Well, I feel warm and fuzzy, but that's because I'm wearing a Christmas jumper.
Oh, yes, so you are. And the hat, of course, the fedora. Don't forget that.
Yes, the fedora, which previously contained Theo Priestly. Anyway, Richard James, another reason people come here, it's not just for our generosity and witty banter.
Oh, no.
They actually
that would be enough on its own.
They actually come here for some content.
Yes.
So the interview is one of those things. Fab Facts might possibly count, although maybe not today. But what does count is Chris Dale's Marvellous Randomiser. Now, Chris has been waiting patiently there on the ottoman all this time.
Draped across it.
Yeah, I mean, you're very seductive, Chris, I would say, you're draping there. But you may now get up and proceed to tackle this week's Randomiser.
Charlie and I were in the park. Then this man came up and said, "Would I like to see some puppies?"
Oh, no, little boy. Puppets. I was wondering if you'd like to come and press my big red button today.
And I said yes.
Ah, excellent.
And I was going to go, but Charlie stopped me. Charlie's reminded me, my mum says I shouldn't go off with people I don't know.
Oh, well, bye then. Oh. Well, now who's going to choose this week's episode? Oh. Charlie says that he's already made this week's selection, and it's Thunderbird's Cry Wolf. Yeah, don't do me any favours, Charlie. So, welcome back to Thunderbirds. It's only been a couple of months since we were last here with The Imposters, which is an episode that, oddly enough, shares a few surface similarities with this one, which we'll get into when we get to them. Anyway, we're already in slightly...
Oh, where am I?
Sad territory here. We have a little Super Mario Nation boy stuck on a ledge.
Oh, my leg. My leg, it hurts.
Oh dear, how sad, never mind.
So this poor kid is clearly in a bad way. He's like 40 feet up the side of a cliff. Oh dear, struggling to get to a radio of some description. It's not looking good for him. We don't know what's happened to him, and quite honestly, I don't really care. Yeah, if you like Super Mario Nation Children, this is the episode for you. It's oh, another rock falling down into the valley. It's at least 40 feet, that drop.
Calling International Rescue.
I like that when he makes the call, he looks up towards the sky, and then we cut to Thunderbird 5. That's a really nice touch.
Calling International Rescue. I've fallen over a cliff edge. I think my leg's broken.
This is International Rescue calling. Are you receiving me? Over.
Because we don't save Super Mario Nation children. It's one of our rules.
Sounded like a small boy. Australian.
Didn't he say where he was?
Possibly a woman putting on a young boy's voice.
Right, Scott. On your way.
Yes, Father.
John will give you your directions when you're skyborne.
Australia, here I come.
Not Ireland. He's categorically not going to Ireland. This is an episode where Scott is not in Ireland. I'm sorry, I got a lot of Ireland. Operation Crash Dive. Scott was in Ireland. Still, that's all in the past now. I can look forward to making new mistakes. And not involving Ireland.
I should have been found by now.
Oh yeah, and the dingoes and the coyotes will be coming to get you. Ripping you limb from limb. Scott's scanning the place through his observation window. I do really like that little slide down window on Thunderbird 1 for Scott to look down on people from on high.
Hey! Hey!
International Rescue from Thunderbird 1. I've spotted him.
How does he look, Scott?
Well, from this height, he looks fit enough.
Priming missiles now.
You gonna need any help?
No, I can handle this one. I'm going into land.
I can bury his body just as well as Virgil or Alan can. I'm sorry, I'm getting very dark. It's too early to be getting so dark with this one. We're only 5 minutes in, but yeah, something about Super Mario Nation Children is just, ugh. And I know I'm not the only one who feels this way, so despite the wicked, terrible things I say about poor little kid trapped on a cliff, at least I can take comfort in the fact that I know I'm not the only one who feels like it. Anyway, here comes a rope to rescue little boy from the cliff.
You arrived just in time. What can I say? You saved my life.
That's all right, Sonny. We're doing it all the time.
Yeah, but surely you'll take a reward. A couple of million or so.
We don't take money.
A couple of million. Oh.
So you never did need rescuing. I think someone had better do some explaining.
Despite the fact that I don't like Super Mario Nation Children, I make no secret of that fact. I actually really like the way they're handled in this one.
I guess it's all my fault.
Oh, you can't blame yourself, Dad.
It's not...
No, I mean for having you in the first place.
You've got to realize that while we were dealing with this call, someone really needing help could have lost their life.
We realize the seriousness of the situation, Mr. Tracy, and I'm not trying to make excuses, but, well, try and look at it from the boys' point of view. You see, when their mother died, I had to try and be mother and a father to them.
The dress just doesn't fit.
Life's pretty dreary around here for a couple of lively boys. I tried to make it up to them. You know, I made them these walkie-talkie outfits that I keep pretty busy at the weather station.
I'm a pretty terrible father, all in all.
We play at International Rescue all the time.
Yeah, it's our favourite game.
I love this idea that International Rescue have these young fans who are playing just like we all did at that age. We would all play Thunderbirds, wouldn't we?
You know, I understand the situation, but this little escapade could have had very tragic results.
So I really like the sort of almost wish fulfillment element of this episode with these kids. Because I think the idea behind having kids in these Super Mario Nation shows, certainly pre-Scarlet, was as an audience identification figure. You know, you could imagine yourself as that little kid. And I don't think any of us really ever did. We would imagine ourselves as Scott or Steve Zodiac or Troy Temple. Oh, no, maybe not so much Troy. But this, I think, is the only time where that audience identification element... Oh, Thunderbird 1 looks like it's cracking apart there. This is the only episode where that audience identification element behind these child characters really works, because now Scott has loaded the kids aboard Thunderbird 1. Dad is clearly overjoyed to be rid of them, and he's taking them back to Tracy Island for a tour.
Hold tight, then. We're on our way.
I like also that Scott has got the boys positioned on these, what I guess are guest chairs, but they're positioned directly over that slot that the exploding bracelets were sat on during 30 Minutes Afternoon, the one that slid back and dropped them into the sea. I like that the boys are sat just directly over that slot.
Thunderbird ETA, 2 minutes, Mr. Tracy.
Thank you, Brains. Now, I want you fellas to give these boys a real warm welcome. Is that clear?
Yes, Father.
Yes, Father.
And I really like that shot of the boys lined up in full uniform.
Well, we're nearly there, boys. Now, you know the drill, don't you?
Sure, Scott. We understand.
International...
Oh, the boys have even got little little tuxes on, little suits. With bow ties and everything.
Okay, Scott. We're ready. You can take her down now.
Oh, may I?
And as always, Grandma is on hand to produce enough food to feed several armies at a moment's notice.
Oh, Mrs. Tracy, there's enough food to feed an army.
I just said that.
Maybe. 2 growing youngsters, I'm not so sure. Well, I hope I'm not out of practice. The trouble with living on a secret base is visitors are few and far between.
Yeah, but you've got about a dozen people to cook for every day. I'm sure you don't get too bored.
Taking them round the grand tour in the monocar.
And this is a nice reuse of an old prop. This is obviously the monocar thing that was inside the pyramid in The Uninvited, but we also have...
Wow. These are some of the vehicles that we use when we're out on rescue operations.
Lots of old vehicles, with the Mole and the Firefly, obviously, the transmitter truck from Sunprobe. 1 or 2 other vehicles that I don't think were international rescue vehicles, but have sort of been seconded into the lineup for this episode. And here we go. Where's Alan going to take them first? Well, Alan's going to show the kids his big rocket.
Hey, that's some spaceship.
And again, I think I've discussed this shot in Give or Take a Million before, but I adore this close-up of Thunderbird 3. The model looks absolutely massive. And the music is just so glorious. It's like, just bask in the splendour of technology and gorgeous model making.
You mean to say you control that craft all by yourself?
Well, I do take Scott with me as a rule, just to keep me on course.
Sir,
this is great.
Intrusion. Sir. But would you mind telling the boys their lunch is ready? Sir.
I love that. And now it's time to stuff their faces with Grandma's mountain of food.
Gee, it's the best meal I ever had.
What do you think of the base?
Much better than my stupid dad cooks.
It was super. Wish I lived here.
And we really understand now why we mustn't call you out without a good reason.
Yeah, didn't we all, as kids, wouldn't we all have loved what these boys have just had to go be shown around the base and meet everybody? It's just... This part of the episode is so nice.
So you wouldn't know what part of the world you were in. Well,
it could almost be a self-contained story in itself, really, like one of the older mini-album stories.
Yes, sir. Well, Tony, Bob, it's sure been great having you here.
He says through gritted teeth.
Bye, everyone.
So long, fellas.
Bye.
See you later.
Bye.
Come on, I'll take you to the passenger chute.
And throw you down there.
Thanks for letting me bring the boys here, Dad.
That's okay, Scott. When we haven't got time to do things like that, well, it'll be a sad day.
But never ever do it again. And they end their trip with a lovely ride in Thunderbird 2. Now, on first viewing of this episode, when I was a kid, I actually watched it round a friend's house, because, I don't know, my parents were away, and my parents came to collect me, to take me home, and this is the scene that I can remember getting... The neighbours let me watch this at their house, and this is the scene that I can remember coming back to my house and turning the telly on. It was that shot of the newspapers flying, cruising a lot. No, not cruising. What do newspapers do? Well, they don't really do anything, do they? Anyway, that failed anecdote aside, the boys are quite happy because they're in the papers.
I think that's enough for today.
Because obviously they've told the world and his wife about their little adventure.
Dad! Dad!
Oh, no.
Just you read that. We're famous.
Yes, I see. Resident at Charity Springs. It's a pity the press got hold of this story.
I don't want anybody to know I've got kids. What could Dad be keeping so secret? Well, someone else who apparently gets the paper delivered to his sinister temple.
A weather station. A likely story. This could be just what I've been looking for.
Something to do.
Within my reach. And who would have thought that international rescue would be the ones to lead me to it? Perhaps I should send them some of the profits I shall make from their secret.
I love scenes of the Hood sat in the temple talking to himself. He clearly doesn't have many visitors. He clearly doesn't entertain much. He must be a very, very lonely man at heart. I think if he went to therapy, there would be some deep issues resolved for him.
2-0 approaching the Australian coast.
Whenever he sat there ranting to himself all by himself, I just feel so kind of sad for him.
This is Satellite HQ to Dunsleigh.
Anyway, we're now in Satellite HQ, which is basically a redress. It's not even a redress, it's the exact same set as
Satellite HQ.
search headquarters from The Imposters, to the extent that...
0 is now coming up to you, Dunsleigh.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I think I mentioned in The Imposters, the Stingray injected seats are mounted in front of a huge map on the wall that a puppet is sort of moving around on. And there's a gorgeous shot there of the puppet on the injected chair just sort of zooming past the camera. It reminds me very much of that scene in... that character in Team America World Police, who was always... I think it was the boss who was always sat in the chair. But yeah, it's the same set, it's the same puppets, it's even the same exterior building that they all work from, and yet it's not the same characters, which is...
My turn to rescue you, Tony.
Which is a bit weird, considering, why not just reuse General Lambert?
Job for Thunderbird 2.
I think it's General someone else in this episode. It's the same puppet, but it's got a different voice. I don't know why they didn't just reuse all the same characters. It wouldn't have made much difference. Anyway, Dad Williams is getting some secret photos relayed from a secret satellite.
Oh, hi, Dad.
Hello there, Bob.
What do you want?
Busy in the dark room. I won't be out for a couple of hours.
That's all right. We're just going out to play, that's all.
International rescue, I suppose.
Yeah, sure.
I see. Well, don't forget what Mr. Tracy told you. Keep your radios turned off.
Of course we will, Dad. We know better than that. We're not kids, you know.
Anyway, off to hang off the side of a cliff over a 40-foot drop. See you, Dad. Oh, but someone else who's come to see is Mr. the Hood, Esquire, crouching behind a rock with his binoculars.
Before I make a move, I must be sure where everyone is.
I don't want to run into those god-awful children.
My young friend seems to be making for the old mine. Yes. That would keep the two boys out of the way.
Oh, the Hood's brought along his generic disguise of guy who looks exactly like the Hood, except he's got brown hair and a brown moustache. And in keeping with their let's go and play in the most dangerous places imaginable line of recreation,
Should be a place here somewhere.
Which one's this? This is Tony or Bob, I don't care which one this is. Has come to hide in a disused mine with visible land subsidence. Because their dad really doesn't care about them. I think the fact that he spends all his time locked in the dark room, which I think is basically code for just... you could get away with the idea that he doesn't do any top secret work at all. He just locks himself in the room to get away from the kids. And I would believe it.
Oh, I've just been sent out to survey this derelict mine.
I love this with the Hood, though.
Aren't you Tony Williams?
I love when he's trying to be charming and friendly.
Saw your picture in the papers. You've got a brother, haven't you?
Yeah.
It is sinister and funny at the same time. I think that the definitive example of that is in The Abominable Snowmen, when he's pretending that I think Parker fell to his death, and he's pretending, he's making up some story that he valiantly tried to save him, and oh dear, here comes the other little squirt.
International rescue are on their way.
On their little homemade Thunderbird 2. which again is something that I know I never had, but a lot of kids had. Their parents would build vehicles for them to little sort of drive around in or sit in. So it's nice that the show is acknowledging that it is so popular that it's got its own fans, both within the universe of the show and in the real world.
Who are you?
I am a surveyor.
My name is... I am Nice Guy.
I did tell Tony you could play here, but, well, it's too dangerous. I think you would better collect him and go home.
Yeah.
And also there's the stranger danger element
Bob?
Dad?
with this, which is always an admirable thing to convey to kids, and I don't think they overplay it too much here.
Isn't they?
Oh, yeah.
You know, the hood is a bit sinister, and it's clearly obvious to the little boy, and then they move
Try
on.
not to bother him, especially if he's working.
Oh, he's working all right. In the dark room.
The dark room? What's that then, Bob?
It's where he goes to drink and cry.
Where exactly in the house is this, dark room?
Well, I'll just go and get Tony.
Hey, come back, Bob!
Oh, why do people always run away from me?
Myself quite easily. But first of all, I must deal with these foolish boys.
Tony! Tony, where are you? The game's off. Tony!
Bob! I'm down here.
And now we're about to get to the... Here it is. The most villainous thing the Hood, I think, ever does during the television series. Lures the two kids into a mine and then throws shoots an explosive charge in there that blows the place to bits and sends them falling. Not a very convincing shot of the puppets falling. They're absolutely rock stiff. But, yeah, the Hood luring two small boys into a mine, blowing the place up, burying them alive. It's brilliant. I love it. I love that it's so... It's probably the darkest thing that he does during the course of the television show, and that includes attempting to blow up passenger liners and power plants and so on. It's such a sudden dark turn to have sudden cruel violence inflicted on these kids. I love it.
Well, that sounds great, Williams. We'll have to check, of course, but that last batch of photographs could show the installations we've been searching for. I should think that we'll be able to arrange a collection tomorrow.
Well, that's the news I've been wanting to hear. Once this project's successful, I'll be posted back to my old job. I'll see more of the kids then. Won't just be in their school holidays.
You don't have any other projects I can take on for you? Possibly something involving moving to Timbuktu, or maybe even further? Oh, the Hood's made his way into the house. No explanation as to why the Williams family have a framed photo of Eddie Houseman on the mantelpiece, or why they have an acetylene torch in the corner of the room. Always good to keep around in a house with kids.
What do you think you're doing in here? I said...
That's it, he's taking the mask
What
off.
are you...
Oh, this is so sinister as well.
Open the door, Williams.
Gotta turn off the screen.
Open the door.
This extreme close-up on the Hood's face, with his yellow eyes just staring at Williams and the spooky music going. Is Williams going to open the door? No, he's going to shut the screen off. Now, you could say that he's resistant to the Hood's mind control powers. I would say it's more likely that he has developed willpower, the resistance, to ignore the call to open the door from his sons.
Oh, but really is an emergency. Calling International Rescue.
Here we go. International Rescue will sort everything out.
National Rescue?
International Rescue here. We're receiving a call. Over.
Oh, boy, look, you've got to come.
There was this guy who tricked us into the mine when Bob and me were both in here. I guess he must have thrown in a bomb.
Hey, wait a minute. Is that Tony? Tony and Bob?
Yes, it is.
Now, so...
Well, it's great to hear from you. I didn't get to meet you guys. How are you?
Fantastic as their story was, they had me believing them at times.
The sound effects were so realistic. The falling debris and the sounds of their bones being crunched.
Two kids into a mine, then throwing in a bomb.
I love it.
Turns around and says he started to believe them.
That's not John's fault, Virgil. When kids play games, they really do believe them. I can remember things when you lot were youngsters.
I want to hear more about what that was. What did the Tracy kids get up to when they were younger?
Break their promises. Forget it, Scott. Oh. Boys. Let's go and have something to eat, huh?
So, Jeff's clearly having none of that. No rescue for Tony and Bob. Their dad's unconscious.
Why didn't they believe us, Bob? Why didn't they believe us? Tony, what?
Shut up.
Nobody's gonna find us here. We'll never get out. Never.
Oh, that's it. The mine is collapsing, the boys are trapped, and international rescue is not coming to save them. And that was Cry Wolf, which, shorter episode than usual, I think, but certainly on the whole, a fairly impressive one. I did like the way the children were used, despite the fact that they've clearly been left to die, and international rescue don't give a Okay, I'll do the rest of the episode. But you do hear a lot about the early Thunderbirds episodes, the ones that were filmed as 25 minutes and then extended to 50 minutes. This is the only one where I think, it was made as a 50-minute episode, but you could stop it at the halfway point, with the kids trapped down the mine, run the credits, and you really wouldn't lose anything.
Gonna be safe there?
I mean, the kids would lose their lives, but, who really cares?
Fit a central security dome office at Dunsley Track, didn't we? That's right, sir. And anyway, because...
Here's General Not Lambert. I forget his name.
Expecting a call? No, sir. It's Williams from Dunsley Tracker.
All the lights on this guy's console are flashing. I don't think that's meant to be happening.
This is an emergency.
Let me talk to him.
Williams, Colonel Jameson here.
Oh, Colonel Jameson, okay. I might just carry on calling you General Not Lambert, because you're in the same uniform, it's the same puppet. Why isn't this the same character?
I heard someone outside. I thought it was one of my sons, so I turned on the...
I locked the door and hid in the corner and tried to cry.
Never seen him before. He started to, hypnotize me, I guess. I just managed to turn the screen off.
I'm kind of tied down. I can't take normal security measures. If I face him, even with a gun, those eyes. Those eyes,
This is brilliant.
He's outside now.
Just... the Hood having someone trapped in a room. And despite the fact that the room is locked, he is going to cut his way in. That is a really effective use of the character. And it's so rare that he's genuinely sinister. I know he's quite creepy when the eyes flash, but most of the time he's sort of semi-bumbling around. Or he's talking about his evil plan, but he's not really as scary as I think he is in this episode. I mean, if you were stuck in a room with nowhere to go, he's trying to get in and he's there with that torch just relentlessly cutting through the wall. It's very effective, and this is not the kind of story you would expect to find the Hood's, I think, probably best appearance in the television series, actually, which is a shame because it's his last one. It's also the first of his television episodes that we've covered on the Randomiser, actually.
Williams, listen to me.
We can't get help to you for several hours.
Several hours? He's practically through.
Williams is sat at a table that looks very similar to the one Professor Matic used to sit at in the navigation bay on Fireball XL5. I wonder if it's the same one.
And you don't think you'll be able to use a gun? Destroy those photographs, burn them, anything. But don't let him get possession. But whatever you do, don't destroy them until you're certain, absolutely certain he's through.
They're vital.
You're not.
Them if we possibly can.
Colonel, what about international rescue?
Well, what about them?
International rescue made it here in 35 minutes. Even they might not make it in time, but 35 minutes.
That's better than anything else.
All right, Lieutenant. I'll try and get permission. Keep in touch with Williams. Very good, sir.
That's a rare moment of an army person having international rescue suggested to them and they are instantly on board with it. Normally it's the international rescue. This time he's like, yeah, fine, we'll do that. I love this this journey through the collapsing mine shaft here as well. This is very nice piece of effects work. Because basically all we see is this one room that Tony and Bob are trapped in, or this shaft they're trapped at the bottom of.
It's gonna come down, Tony. It's gonna collapse. on top of us.
Oh dear, outside, never mind.
The model shots like that one really sell the idea that this is a whole network of tunnels and corridors that's all on the verge of falling apart.
Of course. It all fits together. Those boys weren't playing. They must really be in the mine.
But unfortunately, I already said no, and I don't like to go back on what I said.
Station to get the secret photographs.
Right. We're not a political organization, but those boys are in real danger, and we can't ignore a call like this. Scott?
Yes, sir.
You go and look after Williams. Virgil and Allen, Thunderbird 2. You've got to get down to that mine and bring those 2 boys out.
Right away, Father.
John will give you the final details when you're in the air. All right, boys, off you go.
So remember what I told you, Tony, Bob?
The Thunderbirds are coming.
So don't be mad. Please stop the hating. Yeah, people who criticised the 2004 live-action Thunderbirds movie for calling the vehicles the Thunderbirds, it happened right there. I will hear a lot of criticism against that movie, but that line doesn't really work.
Yeah, I know.
I was just wondering, do you think that character at the Williams house could have known about the photographs from Alpha 20?
Well, frankly, Langfield, I don't know what to make of it. Clearly, we're dealing with no ordinary thief.
And that business of the 2 boys trapped in the mine, it's all too cleverly contrived.
Yeah. He went there to get his hands on these photographs. And it looks like he'll stop at nothing.
And there's a dog who says old man has fallen down a well. I don't know what to believe, Lieutenant. Well, the Hood's not been wasting any time. He's almost through. Williams can't get his lighter to work. Oh, this is good.
Williams!
Oh, there's so much venom in that line. Oh, and Williams didn't burn the photos in time. Oh, that's it. This is probably the most effectively scary the Hood has ever been, cutting through the door to get to Williams like this. Because the guy knows he's there. He knows that there's something odd or supernatural about him. He's clearly scared, and yet there's nothing he can do. And the Hood just waltzes on in and takes what he wants. Again, Thunderbird 1 looks like it's splitting down the middle. And no sooner has Scott arrived than the Hood is leaving with his photos.
Hey there!
Hey, I hear you threw some children down a mine. Just wanted to thank you. Oh no, the Hood's not stopping. So Scott is chasing after him in his hoverbike, which is actually going very speedy. It can keep up with his Jeep no problem.
Taking her down, Alan. Radio base. Tell them to keep the boys talking. We'll home in on their walkie-talkie.
Sure, leave it to me.
And this shot, and several others, including the mine, you see you see shots of them filming this during the behind-the-scenes stuff on the DVDs. You know, that black and white interview footage. That shot of Thunderbird 2 landing, I think they did several takes of that in that footage.
Right. They'll have you out of there in no time.
Okay, Mr. Tracy, but hurry. There's not much time.
Well, no, I said there is no time. Not much time.
This way in looks as good as any, Virgil.
Okay, Alan. You can contact the boys direct. I'll get the equipment ready.
Tony?
It's also obvious that
We're coming down now.
they only made 2 hoverbike props, one with a red base and one with a blue base. I would have thought that each member of International Rescue might have their own hoverbike that's colour-coded to their uniform sash or their vehicles, but Scott's got a red one, Alan's got a red one, and Virgil's got a blue one. So it's obvious they just had the red and the blue, and they share them.
Okay, Virgil. I'll go first.
Now, as much as I said I generally on the whole like this episode, and I do. It's a fairly low-key rescue, this one, that doesn't quite require the heroic music like this. Of Virgil and Alan just being lowered down into the mine shaft. And the puppets also look quite uncomfortable as they swing towards the camera and go a bit out of focus.
Tony, Bob, use your walkie-talkie.
It's the roof, Mr. Tracy. It's giving way. You'd better not come after us.
Can you get a reading? 11, 18, 32. This way, Alan.
Oh, I do hope they can rescue the 2 trapped boys. I'm sorry, I shouldn't make fun of them or even wish their destruction, but you know, I kind of, I mean, I actually I don't mind these 2 so much. I think,
hold it, Alan.
The fact that Christine Finn is also doing a child's voice in this one, and I think she does the voice of the kid in Security Hazard as well. It gives it a bit of variety, whereas where it was always Sylvia in the other shows with Jimmy and with Jonathan Zero and with whoever and whatever in Stingray.
I'm gonna have you out of there.
It kind of gives you the impression that all the kids in the Super Mario Nation world have the same voice. Here, it's so nice to have a bit of variety. And I've also just realised that with this episode, we have basically covered the Thunderbirds, what I call the Children of Terror trilogy, with this and Security Hazard and Give or Take a Million. And there are a couple of episodes after this, well, a couple of episodes we've still to do, like City of Fire, which have a child character in them, but it's not so focused on the child characters as these 3 stories are. So I'm actually quite relieved that we don't have to worry, at least in Thunderbirds, we don't have to worry about these Super Mario Nation children anymore. And we don't have to worry about Tony and Bob. Virgil and Alan have saved them. Just in time. Hooray! Meanwhile, the Hood is trying to lose Scott, but he can't outrun an international rescue hoverbike. Even if he goes onto the Cliff of Doom. Oh, skidding, sliding. Knock down a fence post and off the cliff. That's it.
Well, he couldn't have stood a chance. I guess that's the last crooked game he'll ever try to play. Well, I better go and collect those photographs.
I love that. How many times has this happened to the Hood now? He's crashed, he's fallen off a cliff, something's happened to him, and International Rescue go, well, that's the end of him. He couldn't have stood a chance. And yet...
And curse International Rescue!
He survives. Well, until he falls into the water. And that is the last we see of him in the television series. Incredible. But he'll be back in the movies to cause more mayhem, get his foot crushed, and then put on a black wig.
Mr. Tracy, I don't know what to say. You saved the photograph, sure, but more than that, you saved my son's lives.
How dare you?
I should have known that Tony and Bob wouldn't have broken their promise.
Scott, before we...
Alan's sitting on a chair there like Jonathan Frakes does.
Sure, Tony, you lead the way.
This is a nice ending as well. I know it's cheesy and terrible, and I shouldn't like this. But I just love... I love seeing the ways that the boys incorporate
Now you have to lie on the table, Mr.
International
Tracy.
Rescue and Thunderbirds into their playtime. They've built a replica sort of launch ramp slide based on what they've seen at Tracy Island.
Away you go.
That's it. The kid has to winch Scott up into a almost vertical position until he's off the ramp and onto their Thunderbird 2 Jeep. And this is such a cheesy ending, with Scott careering through the hen house. But you know what? I like it. I can't say I don't like it. I can't say that it's not cheesy.
Sorry. I guess you're too heavy for our emergency exit.
But I can't say I don't like it. It is kind of sweet.
I do for International Rescue.
And it's also rare to see Scott humiliated like that. Normally he's the one who shows up at the danger zone and then watches as Virgil does all the work. So it's kind of nice to see him ending up in a rubbish can covered in garbage. Anyway, that was Crywolf, and as you may have deduced by the way I've been talking about it, I don't hate that one, despite the fact that I feel I should. I think there's not too much of the child characters in this to really overpower it. I just love the way that they're used. I love the way that the show is aware of its own audience. Not only the audience that it would have had at the time, but the generations of kids that grew up watching this show afterwards, playing out Thunderbirds exactly the same way as we've seen Tony and Bob do it here. I also love the way the hood was used in this episode. It's like, just take the cutesiest, sweetest, most awful element of the Super Mario Nation universe, the Super Mario Nation kids, throw the hood at them, and have him be at his most vicious. Oh, wonderful stuff. Nothing spectacular in terms of visuals, but in terms of appealing to the child Thunderbirds fan in all of us, it's rather entertaining.
Oh, another classic.
Well, any episode of Thunderbirds is a classic, really. Even when they contain child Super Mario Nation puppets.
You really don't like that, do you?
Lots of people don't like them. They're weird.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know why. I just find them not very appealing. And
well, I mean, we all got a bit of a shock the other night for the Anderson Insiders screening of Four Feather Falls, didn't we? With the little boy,
Makuya.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that, not helped by the big wide eyes of that era. Gosh, yeah. I'd forgotten about that. Anyway, thank you very much, Chris. We all love a bit of Thunderbirds. Obviously, who doesn't?
Yeah.
If you don't, then email us, podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. Everyone's welcome here, even those who don't like Thunderbirds and do like Terrorhawks, or even those who do like Joe Lanty.
Yeah, I would love to hear from someone who actively hates Thunderbirds and has to sit on their hands every time it's mentioned and grit their teeth because they don't want to upset someone. Well, now, let us know. Podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk.
Send us in your unpopular Gerry Anderson opinion. Unless it's the podcast is rubbish, in which case...
Yeah, well, we won't read it out.
There's really no need. Yeah. Right, Richard, I think that's probably it, isn't it? Everyone's had their fill. I've had mine.
Certainly.
Chris has collapsed, exhausted, back onto the ottoman again.
Yes, look at him fanning himself with that ostrich feather. Poor thing.
Yeah,
have a grape, Chris. Have a grape.
Yeah. Did you peel it for him first?
Of course, yes.
Good. Right. In that case, if you haven't subscribed, please make sure you have subscribed now. It's very easy. You just tap the cover art of the podcast wherever you're listening and press subscribe, or there may even just be a subscribe button. Make sure that's tapped. And then, since you did that, I'd also love it if you'd write us a review and do a little rating. I mean, you don't have to do a rating and a review. You can just do a rating, which is just to tap the number of stars, and that's it. Done.
Easy. That's quick, isn't it?
A few words about why you like the podcast would also go down a treat. We'd really appreciate that.
Yeah.
But I think that's it then.
Yeah, that'll do.
We're done.
Yep.
You may now leave and continue your day, Podsteron. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
Richard, I feel like I've forgotten something.
What's that?
There's
in what? During the podcast?
Yeah, there's a thing in the news I should have said.
Oh, in the news.
Yeah.
What was that then?
It's about...
It was the auction's coming up.
Oh,
tell us about the auction. Yes, tell me more.
There's an auction. Did you know there's an auction?
Is there an auction?
Yeah. Julian Bell, who's the unit driver for
yes.
for Anderson Burr, passed away last year, I think, end of last year, and he had a crazy collection of stuff, and it's all up for sale. And in fact, later this week, if you're in the UK, you may see a small package, as in a video package, with me on ITV regional news in the area around the auction, possibly in Meridian, I don't know, talking about all things Terrorhawks and all the finds there. But yeah, amazing stuff. Terrifying Zelda head, which was stuffed with wool, and the latex has degraded, and now the wool has burst out of her face, and it looks like maggots. It's really very, very disturbing.
Maybe pass on that then.
So, yeah, but there's some great stuff in there. I should be keeping an eye. And if you're still listening, Podsterons, let us know if there's anything you're hoping to bid on, because there are, there's things to suit most budgets in there.
Really?
There's even a small wooden crate from the Lieutenant adverts in the late 1980s.
Right.
Which I think is going to go for between £20 and £40. So there's something.
Okay. Yes.
And then if you're feeling
down the back of the sofa.
I was going to say, if you're feeling a bit more flush, then you can pick up the Battlehawk original studio model for about $4 or $5 grand, I think.
Wow.
Or a Captain Ochre head from Captain Scarlet, which I think is going to go for between 10 and 20,000. So.
Crikey. But listen, if we all gave £1, all the Podsterons, all our listeners...
Then we can get that crate.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to do an auction syndicate. I'm sure these things will find lovely homes. But
yes, great.
Just search Eubanks Gerry Anderson auction if you want to have a look at that. So
Nice.
you're probably going to do that now, aren't you, Richard?
I'm going to do it right now. Yeah.
There's some Space Precinct uniforms in there.
Great.
Oh, yeah. Off you go. You go and bid in those now.
Yeah. Charlotte, I found some Officer Orange underpants for sale at the auction.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?
You have been listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.